ladies and gentlemen, it is February 16th, 2022, and this is FAWMtalk. I'm, of course, Juha, and with me, as always, my excellent co-host, Mr. Head First Only, Chris. How are you doing?
Hello, hello. I'm doing very well, thank you, sir. How are you?
Surprisingly tired, but we don't let that stop us. We're gonna keep on rocking and gonna go and play some music here.
Let's rock.
Let's rock. The first track we're gonna play today is gonna be by Casey Wilson, and this one is called Dark Speaks.
Shadows hold secrets we might be afraid to hear. We're taught to be scared of the woods. It's safe in the clear. Stand in the light, don't mind if it burns. The stories they tell you, the lessons you've learned. Shadows hold secrets you need to survive. It's the price of life. Dark speaks when she calls. You can listen, you can run. You can hear or you can hide. You can turn and face the night in the shadow of the sun. In the end, it's just begun. Dark speaks when she does. The choice is always yours. Dark speaks when she calls. You can listen, you can run. You can hear or you can hide. You can turn and face the night in the shadow of the sun. In the end, it's just begun. Dark speaks when she does. The choice is always yours. God knows you've been searching for something you'll never find. The stars cannot guide you here. You always knew deep inside. Stand in the light, watch your flesh peel. Realize you've forgotten what it is to feel. Shadows hold secrets you need to survive. It's the price of life. Dark speaks when she calls. You can listen, you can run. You can hear or you can hide. You can turn and face the night in the shadow of the sun. In the end, it's just begun. Dark speaks when she does. The choice is always yours. Dark speaks when she calls. You can listen, you can run. You can hear or you can hide. You can turn and face the night in the shadow of the sun. In the end, it's just begun. Dark speaks when she does. The choice is always yours. Dark speaks when she calls. You can listen, you can run. You can hear or you can hide. You can turn and face the night in the shadow of the sun. In the end, it's just begun. Dark speaks when she does. The choice is always yours. Dark speaks when she calls. You can listen, you can run. You can hear or you can hide. You can turn and face the night in the shadow of the sun. In the end, it's just begun. Dark speaks when she does. The choice is always yours.
Oh, that's Dark Speaks by Casey Wilson. And in case you want to post your own tracks for consideration or show, let me post you a link on the chat where you can post your songs through that form, and we'll take a look and we'll try to play as many songs by as many farmers as we possibly can. But yeah, that's a great 80s synth pop sound.
Yep, very definitely. Bit sort of cross between Yazoo and Soft Cell, I thought. Yeah, like that a lot. Very polished, says Dragon Dreams, and he's not wrong.
Yeah, it's got that sort of bell sound as a keyboard sound there. It's very cool. Gives sort of a mystical feel. Dark Night. That's one of those rainy day songs, yeah.
Oh gosh, yes, definitely. And lots of weather chat in the forums at the moment with various storms. And then Nalajin Music saying it's 50 degrees Fahrenheit in Indiana, basically perfect for me. Melt that snow.
Yeah, that sounds good. We've just been getting more and more snow. It's just like snowing every week here. But oh well, it'll melt come June.
I should hope so. That's midsummer.
It's not given, but yeah, I remember one. Was it? I remember one June when it was legitimately snowing. One summer day, and it's been like +2 Celsius during Midsummer Fest, what we call Juhannus here. So it's like 21st, 22nd, thereabouts. Like, so
crikey.
You get some weird anomalies like that, but it's pretty weather and fun and nice and cool. And we're talking about weather, and it's like a music stream. So listen, I saw this fantastic forum thread about the Multi-Instrumentalist Problem. Have you seen this? It's a
great thread.
Talking about like what do you do with this problem when you have so many instruments and so many more you want to acquire and learn. I've certainly had this problem in the past, and nowadays I mostly buy VST synthesizers that I just install on my hard drive and then use with Reaper. But yeah, back in the day I bought a mandolin, I bought a bass, and I wanted to buy a violin and this sort of stuff. But I don't know. I don't have that much income because I'm a starving artist. So I have to pick my battles in that sense. But yeah,
same. But you'll notice on that thread that both Dragon Dreams and myself both said, "What do you mean? How do you stop? What's this stop all about?"
Yeah, but what
it's not a problem, says Dragon Dreams with a big smiley face in the chat on YouTube.
But I wonder, like, what is it about? Like, why do we get that feeling? Why do we get that idea that, oh, I have to buy that one now, and oh, I gotta try that one, and that could be really nice in this song?
Well, it is a problem that we all have to face, and we all know someone who suffers from gear acquisition syndrome. It is so common that the condition does actually have a name. It's the gas, says Riaco Music. 3 kids and bills, etc. No money for GAS, says Alex, our very own Metalfoot. And yeah, it's like, oh, well, the guitars I've got, I mean, with guitars, there are always justifications that are possible. If you have a Fender Strat, then getting a Les Paul is like, well, Les Pauls have more frets, and my Ibanez has 24 frets, and then the other Ibanez has 9 strings, and then the Godin has a guitar synthesizer input, and the other one has a Fishman bridge that lets you pretend to have an acoustic guitar when you're playing an electric guitar, and the struggle never ends, folks. The struggle never ends.
Yeah, but isn't it weird that nowadays I'm pretty much happy with my acoustic guitar, like we discussed in Monday's episode. That's pretty much the only thing I keep playing. I just pick up my acoustic guitar and open up some chord sheets on the screen, and then I just just keep singing and playing. And I don't know why I'm not happy with just learning that one instrument and just making songs for that one instrument and just mastering that and learning to express myself through one simple piece of equipment. Like, why do I have to I gotta buy this $1,000 orchestral symphony sample pack now. This is really important for me for some reason.
But and Paul in the chat has said, I have specific uses, different uses for every single one of my 14 electric basses. There is each, and the more you play stuff, the more you realize that a certain instrument, although you love it to bits and you would probably play it all the time if it was the only instrument that you had because it's that good, maybe, you know, there's some stuff that it's not great at doing, like particular sounds or timbres, and it's the same with orchestral collections. I saw there's a guy recreates Time, the finale piece of music from Hans Zimmer's score for Inception, and he goes through half a dozen different orchestral libraries going, no, none of the brass on these goes like Hans Zimmer got out of the real orchestra for when the brass kicks in. And I mean, I've got more than one orchestral library, and they are very, very different in character.
Doesn't Spitfire actually have a Hans Zimmer sample library now? So that should be pretty good.
If I was earning, or if I actually had a job, I would probably have bought it by now, as I would indeed have bought Spitfire Audio's Bernard Herrmann collection, who is someone that Mr. Zimmer cribs from tremendously, because Herrmann used the most bizarre collection of instruments for orchestrating things like The Day the Earth Stood Still and such things, huge brass sections. It's like you can see where Zimmer got it from.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. Like, if you want that, I don't know, Mark Knopfler sound, you're not gonna get it with SG. you gotta have that Fender.
Not.
So, but the thing is, like, why do you have to get that specific sound? Like, that's probably what we're boiling this down to, is that you're there with your 14 guitars or whatever, and you're like, but I can't get that specific sound. Well, do you really need it? Like, if you're creating your own music, isn't part of it finding and defining your own sound? And not just like
very much so.
Borrowing all the sounds and doing like, I need to have this sound now, and I need to sound like Mark Knopfler now, and I don't know.
And it's even more obvious that is the case when you play synthesizers, as I do, because I have the Arturia emulation of the Fairlight computer musical instrument, Fairlight CMI, which was used by Peter Gabriel and Kate Bush, and everybody who was anybody in the music business in the 1980s had to have one, and at the time they cost more than I paid for my first house. But now I've got a Fairlight in my computer, and if you trawl the internet, you can actually find a lot of the genuine sample files that people like Peter Gabriel actually used for his recordings. So the little bouncing piece of concrete that was used at the beginning of Family in the Fishing Net, you can actually get that absolute genuine 100% this is the sound that Peter used for that record. But the question then becomes is, well, what's the point? Do you record your version of Family in the Fishing Net, or do you find your own sound?
Yeah.
Do you create your own novel sounds rather than slavishly trying to replicate to the exact fundamental and frequencies and subharmonics and whatever else of something that somebody did 40 years ago?
Yeah, that's what I'm
They have great fun doing that, but it's not helping me as a musician develop my own sound. Or is it? What do you think in the chat, folks? Is it something that is worth doing, or
I'm doing some like my own versions of some songs, and they have very specific sounds in some of them. Like, I'm doing this one track from Tanoshi Muumin Ikka, it's called. It's from a It's from a animated TV show from the 90s called it's Muumilakson tarinoita in Finnish, but I don't really know what it's in English. It's like something with the Moomins.
Right, okay.
But it's got a fantastic soundtrack by one Japanese composer that I can't remember now. But the sounds are very much, they have that sort of 90s synthesizer sound, but then you get some pieces where you get acoustic instruments and acoustic guitars, and then there's one track where it begins with a like a music box. And I'm like, well, how am I gonna recreate a music box? And of course, Spitfire Labs has a music box instrument, but it doesn't really sound like that. So then you go like, well, now what am I gonna do? Do I want the exact same sound? Do I want to do something of my own? And what I ended up doing is actually layered Spitfire with another instrument that doesn't sound like music box at all, but it adds a little bit of shimmer on top of the sound, and then I downloaded like a hammer hitting anvil or something like that, and I sampled that on each strike, so you get a little like bling blunk blink blunk blink blunk. So yeah, but to me it's more interesting to getting like your own idea of like what do I want this to sound like. I have the original and it sounds great, but if I were to do this, I want it to sound like this. So do you need the exact same sound that the artist used on the original version?
And Dragon Dream says Sumio Shiratori is the Moomin's composer.
That is correct, yes. I remember that now.
Yeah, it's a good question. For those of you who are going, well, yeah, I agree, I've got the Labs musical box and it's not really what I'm looking for. Have a look, if you have the Contact player, at Clang.Cologne. Because Clang, it's an imprint of, I've forgotten the name of the parent company, but they basically do a lot of very, very cheap VST instruments. They're like €5 each, but they release free ones every couple of months. And there is a Clang Spiel, which is a German musical box, and that one is splendid. It's well worth downloading, and that one's free.
So wait a minute, since you're an expert with Contact, what's the deal with the free Contact player? Because I had a couple of those, and I tried playing, like I had like an accordion instrument that I wanted on one of my tracks, but then it just bricks after 15 minutes. It's got like time limit, so you can't use the free Contact player.
Okay, the free Contact player will play regardless. So that bricking thing is not the fault of the Contact player.
Okay.
It's the fault of the Contact instrument that you have installed and started playing in it. So there are various categories of licensing that people that Native Instruments charge for people creating Contact instruments. Now, this is as I understand it. So as with any headfirst only pronouncement, I could be completely barking up the wrong tree, but as far as I'm aware, if you're just a sort of native user and you're sampling at home, there are certain limitations on the instruments that you can create. And the real professional companies pay a licensing fee to Native Instruments, and that allows them to create instruments for Contact that are more complex. And if I remember correctly, they may even have different NKI or whatever it is, the file extension on the end. Yeah. And I discovered this when a couple of years ago, in fact, it might even have been Dragon Dreams, said, I found this Contact instrument and it's samples of pianos in buildings in Pripyat. So this was radioactive pianos that you can play in Contact. And it was like, oh, this is brilliant. So I bought the radioactive pianos, the Pripyat pianos pack it's called. I think it's about 40 euros or something like that. But it's like, I mean, come on, man. Radioactive pianos, they sound fantastic because they've been left to moulder and go out of tune. And these guys went and basically sampled them every few years. They had to wear full personal protection equipment and decontamination and dosimeters and everything else. And I started playing with it, and at the time I'd only got Complete Start with the free Contact player. And it worked perfectly for 15 minutes. And it was, oh, this is brilliant. I went back to it the next day and it went, no. Because it was a commercial release. And the commercial releases usually say, no, you need the full Contact player if you want to play this for more than 15 minutes. So that is probably what had happened with the instrument that you were playing.
Right. So you need like you need a different version of the Contact player to play some instruments. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's basically Contact player, and there's full Contact with everything in it.
Right. Yeah.
And that costs. I mean, it's not ridiculously expensive, and if you buy one of the complete packages, it's, you know, it comes with a lot of other stuff. But once you've shelled out for the full version of Contact, though, there is so much stuff online that you can just throw at it, and Contact will go, yeah, totally happy playing that. So there's all the piano book stuff, for example. Some of it plays in piano book player. Some of it actually needs the full version of Contact. There are free alternatives out there, and Piano Book have been very good at pushing one of the free alternatives, which is a plugin called Decent Sampler. And there is a growing Decent Sampler community out there, both in Piano Book and elsewhere. And if you install Decent Sampler, it's totally free download. It will play all Decent Sampler packages. And so there are alternatives out there. It was me, says Dragon Dreams. Pripyat Pianos is currently on offer at $29, and it is really good.
Yeah, Contact 6 is currently 50% off, so it's 199 euros, 200 euros. But that's also
literally this week been updated to Contact 6.7, which has serious amounts of bug fixes, and now it works perfectly on Apple M1 Silicon.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's worth getting.
But it's also like, yeah, you say it's worth getting, but when you say it's got like an insane library, like more sounds than you'll ever be able to explore, it just gets my heart pounding a little bit. Like, I really don't want to touch that, because it's just too much.
Well, I mean, even if all you said was, right, all I want is one piano and one orchestra. I mean, the piano, there is Ivy Audio do a sampled Steinway. I think it's a Steinway Model D called Piano in 162. And again, that's completely free. And it is an absolutely gorgeous piano VST plug. And yeah, I mean, I say, for me, the sort of music that I make, Contact, it makes sense for me to get it, because I do a stupid amount of stuff with everything from full orchestras to musical boxes and radioactive pianos and whales and people hitting. Well, big shout out to Stefan SPH on FAWM, who gave me a copy of his homemade Contact instrument, which is a double bass made out of his bathroom washing line that he hangs his clothes on, and it's really good.
That's so cool. Yeah, well, I have addictive keys, so that's like one of the.
Yeah, why would you want anything else? Pretty much,
it sounds so brilliant. it's got grand piano, it's got upright piano, it's got electric piano, and the presets alone are, it's like, you listen through the presets and you're like, I'm already set for life. I don't even know what I would do with all these. But then you can go in and fiddle with the mic positions and all sorts of stuff, and you can see how the presets were made and just go there. And you mentioned the detuning thing. Well, Addictive Keys has a detuning setting where you can go and like detune each individual key, like put the middle C a little bit up and the D like a little bit down and that sort of thing. And
nice.
Some of the presets use that, and so sounds amazing. But yeah, like I don't really. Once you've gathered a comprehensive library of stuff, like you have piano, you have your drums. So I have the Addictive Keys and Addictive Drums, and they're like, I don't really need anything else. And then you got your Arturia synths and that sort of thing. And then you start to think like, okay, well, I could get Contact, but it's like I need one thing maybe from there, and then it's like $200, and yeah, I don't know about that. So it becomes a little bit of a inner struggle. But if it starts to make if it starts to make sense at some point, then yeah, it might be worth the cost.
Yeah, and you mentioned a whole boatload of really good VST plug-in instruments. I think the thing really is if you're starting and you don't have anything, then I think that's probably the point when Contact really starts making the most sense, because that lets you buy into an ecosystem of free or very, very cheap instruments that you can then set about acquiring, rather than dropping 250 quid here on the Arturia V collection and another couple of £100 on the orchestral tools libraries and the Spitfire libraries. Even when you buy a few of those Spitfire €29 jobs, it all starts mounting up.
Yeah, I just dropped a link on the chat to a video of Piano Tech, which is also a piano plugin, which is different.
That one is insane because it's not a recording, it's not samples. That is software doing the physics of vibrating piano strings. It's mad.
It is
absolutely mad.
And this guy's testing the plugin out, and he's like a piano nerd, so he has his own preferred mic setups and this sort of thing.
I think you showed me that video about 6 months ago, and about a week after you sent me that link, Guy Mitchellmore on ThinkSpace was reviewing Piano Tech, and he was basically working through it from a composer's perspective of actually using it for creating music, and he was just blown away by it, because he was reviewing the version. I think it's at Piano Tech 7 now. Might be. In fact, that was 6 months ago, so it may even be Piano Tech 8 now. But yeah, if I had the money, it would be, ooh, that looks good.
Yeah, but that's also like, it sounds interesting, it looks interesting, it's like, well, a new toy to play with, but I really, really, really don't need it. So it's like,
and that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does it fulfill a need that you have as a musician to make a particular piece of music, or is it just a toy to play with?
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I got a need for more music, so we go to. This one is by Swine Flu. It's our buddy Ben, and this one's called Pretty.
I wanna be pretty when I grow up, just like in those magazines. I wanna be pretty inside and out, be the hottest thing on the scene. Pretty! cars, cocktail bars, dating stars, tattoos and scars, all the bling and sometimes swing, no right or wrong, I come on strong. Fancy cars, cocktail bars, dating stars, tattoos and scars, all the bling and sometimes swing, no right or wrong, I come on strong.
What's Pretty by Swineflu. What an excellent vocal sound, vocal technique. I started to listen to that, like, it sounds so much like Dave Grohl. And then I started to listen to the guitars, and I was like, that's like a really close to Foo Fighters sound. And then you mentioned that Nirvana returns.
And as Paul says, this is why swine flu destroys PA systems.
I guess. It sounds to me like he's destroying his pipes. But
That just hurts, just listening to it.
but I gotta respect that sound. I mean,
Yeah, that's an awesome track. That really is an awesome track. Alex says he thinks that was actually a skirmish track.
holy, really?
So putting that together in an hour, mate, that's rocking. That is.
Really sweet. Gotta listen to some more of his tracks. Whoa, boy. What were we talking about? Just like piano tech and the. What do you got left to? What's your next purchase gonna be? What are you currently drooling over?
Me? Well, my synthesizers are suffering from a certain amount of decrepitude, so I was just talking to my synth doctor over the afternoon because the Juno 60 has started not booting up properly. So only the sub oscillator was working at lunchtime. I've got it back working again, but and the JX3P is dead. So there's always a new synthesizer. Our friend Concept Devices, Martin Greenwood, was streaming a set on the Morphic Resonance Twitch stream at the weekend, and he was sharing the bill with a guy whose name I can't remember at the moment. But this guy had a Jupiter 80 and a Korg Wave State, both of which had me drooling because they are lovely, lovely synths.
So
If there was a synth that I would add to that little selection behind me, Roland Phantom perhaps.
But you got like Arturia's collection, so does it really? Do you get something extra from buying the real thing, or is it more like just having the plastic box, or
certainly the old synths, because you're altering the sound with physical controls on them, and even the Korg M3 on the bottom there. It's very tactile, and you can discover stuff when you're just noodling around with the synth settings. And much as I love Arturia's V collection, it's not the same, and there's that sort of, I don't know whether it's just putting it through the signal chain and actually physically going down a cable and through the little Yamaha reverb that I've got and the mixer and everything else. They feel warmer, they feel fatter than the Arturia. I mean, the Arturia collection's got, I don't know if they've got the Juno 6, haven't they, rather than the 60. And so there's a lot of similarity, and Arturia's emulation of the Juno 60's chorus is just as noisy and hissy as the choruses on the real Juno and the JX3P that I've got that is currently waiting for medical assistance.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta
So-
really respect the people going through all those sounds and like modeling and trying to get the sounds as close as possible on the collection.
Oh yeah, because the Arturia guys, they don't sample stuff. It is all sort of maths. All the pianos are like the piano tech. They're all done mathematically and modeled, so you can move the tines about on the Fender Rhodes suitcase pianos and do things that the real pianos, you'd void the warranty with some of the stuff that you can do on the Arturia collection. But when it comes to guitar, there's always another guitar. I would love a real proper Fender Strat. I've got the Squier Strat, and that's a glorious guitar that didn't cost me very much at all. But I would really like a proper Fender Strat. And our friend Iruke Sounds, Paul over there in Seattle, has a very, very, very nice Jeff Beck Fender Strat, which I lust after every time he plays it on tracks on FAWM.
Yeah, that's interesting because I'm very much. I don't care that much about guitar sounds, which is curious because so many guitarists they're all about the sound and look, this is my sound, and you can't, if you go record a sound in some studio, you tell the engineer that you can't touch my sound. The sound has to be exactly like that and I'm just like, well, I throw a distortion on it and I put the gain on there. It's like somewhere there, and if it sounds dirty, it's good enough for me. But I'm very much like a player guitarist. To me, it doesn't really matter what it sounds like. To me, it matters what it feels like. And I'm pretty happy with just my Paul Reed Smith. I don't really need anything else.
It has to be said, that is a very spiffy guitar.
Well, it is.
It's not the sort of first guitar that you buy and every time you play it, you end up with grooves across your tips of your fingers because it hurts to play it. Yeah. You can always tell a nice guitar is a joy to play.
Yeah, and I used to be on this guitarist Discord server, and people came there asking advice for, like, they were buying their first guitar. And there's always like, well, I'm thinking of buying this one. It's $50. I'm telling them, no, don't buy that. Because what ends up happening is they get that guitar that is basically firewood, and they play it for a week. They hate it because it sounds and feels awful, and they can't get one chord right. So it's like, don't do it. But get one that costs $150. Get a Yamaha, and you'll at least have an instrument.
There is a lovely video of Joe Satriani going round to one of his fans. Basically, he ran a raffle, and the first prize in the raffle was Joe would come to your house and give you a guitar lesson and play your guitar. And Joe's in this, teenage kid's bedroom, and he's got a boxy little amp and this very, very cheap Japanese copy of a Fender Strat. And Joe picks it up and plugs it into this kid's amp and plays Surfing with the Alien, and it sounds like Joe because most of the sound is in Joe's fingers. But at the end of the video, he puts the guitar down and just goes, because it hurt to play, and he's Joe.
Yeah, some guitars are just nasty. I used to, like I mentioned, I used to be a guitar instructor in this place downtown, and they bought like the cheapest guitar you could find on bulk, Williams and one of these brands. Every classroom was equipped with a $60 guitar, and whenever I picked one up, it's like, I didn't have any skin on my fingers at the end of the day.
Yeah, if you want to put somebody off playing guitar for life, give them one of those to play.
Yeah.
They're horrible. It's you can resurrect a guitar like that if you set it up properly and the neck's adjusted properly. It won't hurt you. A guitar should not hurt you to play it. It really shouldn't. If it's doing that, then that is not a guitar you want to buy. Get something else.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, we got, and our next track is by this person was a guest on the show already, so it's a song called Intro. So this one is by Riaco. Intro by Riaco. Fantastic piece of music. I've mentioned a couple of episodes ago that it was AI's track that reminded me of Thomas Bergerson's music, especially the Humanity albums that he's been doing, and that prompted me to go back and listen to those albums again, Humanity 1 through 4. And this one also, it has very much the same sort of atmosphere and feeling, and it's got that sort of ethereal sound that's just gets you pumped up, hyped up for something's going to happen. Really, really excellent sounds.
And that's not synths. That's actually Mel's voice, because Mel's very, very gifted in terms of the vocals and just composition in general, and as we all know and love. So there we go. But yeah, belter of a track, that one.
Brilliant. Yeah, I wonder, because Thomas uses a lot of choirs in his music, and there's always like some sort of voice singing, like some sort of vocals, not just these oohs and ahs, but like vocal choirs. And I researched this a little bit, like, are there choir synths? And there are some that you can type words in more or less, and with a lot of work you can get it to sound like an actual choir singing, that sort of thing.
And Spitfire's Albion choirs are extremely good. I don't know. Mel, can you? I mean, apart from you, I think you've used some choirs in the past, haven't you, Mel? If you could maybe explain which ones you've used, as well as your own voice.
Yeah, I don't really know if Thomas uses synths, but he's got a lot of those choir sounds. And I was thinking, like, well, did he rent a choir? Maybe. Who knows? He does a lot of
if you're looking for a VST choir that you can just drop in your door and have a play with for free, I would suggest having a look for the Sonatina choirs, because they do, and they actually do a nice split of low male and high female choirs, and I've used those quite a few times. The Korg M3 does actually have some very, very nice choir on it, and it has a fairly passable imitation of the Mellotron choir that was a tape recording of a real choir singing individual notes that was used in the Mellotron.
I bought Garriton Personal Orchestra back in 2012. It doesn't have the best sounds, and it's like $150, but the choirs, the little ah choirs are really, really nice. But what I want to do with choirs is I type some sort of like macaroni and cheese and just have those choirs singing like macaroni and cheese. That's what I want.
I need to hear that now. I really need to hear that. You need to make that happen now, man. Riaco says, I use Olympus Elements. Dragon Dream says, I use Vocaloid Miriam. Riaco says, I add my voice sometimes. And that's the trick of making something. If you are doing, because I've done that as well, is if I use a choir, I will tend to add my own voice just at the bottom end as a sort of slightly wonky bass on it, so everybody listening goes, oh, that's far too wobbly to be a professional choir. He must have done all that by himself. How splendid.
Oh, that's great. Was it Mel who asked what makes a cheap guitar hurt? So here's a bass, and this is actually a Yamaha, and it's a rather okay bass for I think I paid like 170 euros for this. And the setup, I started to play this this February, and it was like the neck was bending like a banana.
Oh,
and
what?
The strings were like here, so I had to. It's tough to play when you have to press the strings like really from far away down.
Yeah, it hurts.
Yeah,
it's one of the reasons why cheap guitars do hurt.
But also, the frets aren't. The fret work isn't the best because they are just like put through a machine, and the machine glues the frets on the fretboard. So what happens is, and you can test this usually on at a store. You just do this. You put your hand behind the neck, and then just gently go through the stroke the neck with your fingers like this, and you'll feel the frets poking out, and they're like grating your your skin out of your hand, and you can take like a metal file to them and just make them perfect. But yeah, it's like if you buy a 50 guitar that costs $50, then are you gonna pay $150 to get it set up correctly? Probably. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But yeah, guitar maintenance is kind of costly.
But the thing to remember, kids, is that if you have a guitar that's got a bendy neck like that, then in most cases it can be adjusted, because pick a guitar at random here. No, you can't really see it. So in this guitar, if I turn it round, you can see
We're all returning. This is the weirdest stream on YouTube now. It's like,
there's an inlay in a different wood there, and that's because inside a guitar's neck there is a long piece of metal. It's a metal bar called a truss rod, and that rod is held under tension, and there will be nuts somewhere on the guitar neck, either underneath a little plate at the top there, or in some cases down here where the pickups are, where Juha is showing his. And you can basically turn and adjust the truss rod.
right.
What that does is it either increases or decreases the tension of the two nuts on the end of the truss rod. And if you increase the tension, it starts bending the neck. So if the neck's bending up, you loosen the truss rod and the neck bends down again. And if the neck's bending down, you tighten the truss rod and the neck bends up a bit.
Yeah, and if you live in a
There are
weird,
ways of fixing it.
if you live in a weird climate like Finland, where in summers the humidity is like 60% and in winters it's like 20%. So then the wood in the neck just keeps going like this the whole year round. So it just depends on which time of the day you pick it up, but or which time of the year. But I gave this one a couple of twists, so you just have one of those. Is it Allen keys? And then it's. I got it like really good. I don't know. I don't even know how I did it, but it's really playable now.
It's worth picking up one of these, which is a sort of combined thermometer and humidity meter. So I have one in the studio that just tracks what the relative humidity is in here, so that it doesn't get too dry or too damp. Because don't want damp because lots of books, don't want it too dry because the guitars. So so opposite way round. Right. I always get this wrong. Thanks.
I bought this one. This is a humidifier.
Bendy up, bendy down. I got it the wrong way around because HFO. That's what I do. But
On the floor here.
principle's the same, just inverted.
So
Tighten the truss rod to bend it backwards and reduce relief. It says so. You tighten the truss rod, and the neck bends back.
Yeah.
And that reduces the relief, which means that the distance that the strings have to travel before they hit the frets is reduced, and that makes the guitar easier to play. But don't overdo it, because if the strings are too close to the frets and you're playing high up, you'll get buzzy noises because the strings will just naturally be sitting against the frets lower down.
So here you can see I also like lowered the strings by turning these little nuts, so they just lower the little pieces there, which give the strings their height. But yeah, I had
and
to.
while we're at this, because if you don't know what you're doing, then it's probably not a good idea to fiddle with the bridge, because when you've got a guitar set up, you have something called intonation. So it's the best way of checking whether your guitar is set up right is if you play a string and then you play the 12th fret, which is an octave higher, and then you play the harmonic at the 12th fret, it should be the same note. Can you hear that? That is the same note.
Yeah.
There's the harmonic, and there's the fretted note. So when you adjust the bridge, what you can do is throw that harmonic out.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you are interested in fiddling with guitars, just get one of those $50 guitars and just start playing around with that, and you'll get some experience before you start destroying your family heirlooms. I don't know. But yeah, I thought I would fix the problem by buying the humidifier you see there on the floor. But the thing is, I live in this apartment complex, and they have, I think it's called like mechanized air circulation. So it just keeps, whenever I humidify the room, the air circulates and keeps sucking up all the humidified air, so it doesn't do anything. It's just like $100 wasted. So what I end up doing during winters, I just put a piece of damp paper in a plastic bag and put the bag inside the guitar case with the guitar, so it should keep it a little bit humidified. So it's like it's close to space. But yeah, that's now it's the problem is that I have the guitar in a case, so now I just don't play it ever. So I don't know if it's worth it. Maybe I'll just take it out anyway, and I'll play it. It'll slowly start splintering and going bad, but at least I played. Well,
Give it a play. Let's do a FAWM song with it. Show it some love.
maybe. Yeah, maybe. Could be good. All right. Well, what do we got coming up? You've got a stream tomorrow, right? 7:30 p.m. GMT.
Do indeed. I will be on the Head First Only Twitch channel. We're on twitch.tv as per usual with FAWM live stream Thursday night, my 85th Thursday night.
Ooh.
FAWM live stream, or just music live stream. And I'll be talking about the music that I've been doing this week, including a piece of music. A big shout out to Sean, Duct Tape Guy on Twitter. On FAWM, who pinged me yesterday on Slack and said, because he's been playing various FAWMers pieces of music to the 2nd and 3rd grade children that he teaches at school, and getting them to review pieces of music, and they reviewed a piece of mine. And Craig, CTS in February Album Writing Month, very kindly had offered to write a piece of funk music for the year 2 class, or the 2nd grade class at Sean's school. And Sean said, "Oh, my year 3 people are really, really jealous now. Could you do a funk track for my year 3 people? They've written you some lyrics." And it was like, well, how can you refuse a request like that? So that's what I've done today. I will be playing that on my show tomorrow.
Sweet. And surprisingly, we have the next FAWMtalk is going to be Saturday, and we got a special surprise guest. So it's going to be excellent. You definitely want to tune in Saturday at 7 p.m. GMT.
So don't forget that. So 7:30 for me tomorrow, 7 p.m. UTC on Saturday on this YouTube channel. And I believe we're also back once again on Monday, aren't we?
Yeah. Hopefully.
Just can't get rid of us.
No matter how many letters you send, we keep coming
The
back.
cease and desist orders just aren't cutting it.
Oh my lord. Okay, well, for our last track, we got a cool one here by Chess Lane and Stephen Wordsmith. This one is called Your Eyes. So until Saturday, have a great FAWM.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
hazel eyes, hair of red, at least is round. Colors change, but in them, that same love that I've forever found. And that deals and gathers cannot take what it won't give. Still I've loved you all this life. You never had the chance to live. You're 6 now and your eyes are green. Like hers, you have her stare, her look. They laugh and cry, the same between the covers of her favorite book. And the deals and gathers cannot take what it won't give. Still I've loved you all this life. You never had the chance to live. And still we hold long after the last day that we believe. With you I'd want for nothing, and it's nothing I receive. You're 7, your eyes are blue, one pressed against your palm, the other tracing seas across the moon, the latest world that you'll discover. And that deals and gathers cannot take what it won't give. Still I've loved you all this life. You never had the chance to live. You're 5, you have hazel eyes.
Yep.